And just allowing whatever wants to be. Breathing, sensing, feeling. There's nothing right now that needs to be added to the wholeness of what you already are, because you are enough. You are enough. Just as this, the same self that is meeting itself in this through the uniqueness of you. And this really just comes down to a surrender of all the ideas we have about ourselves and others and how things should be. And just to sit and be and breathe. And that's life. That same energy now that is noticing what those senses are, what the breath is, what the mind is doing, that same energy that is allowing all of that is the same energy in all of us here. So this sharing and this call is really just an opportunity to really let go completely and allow, and not reject anything that wants to come through or comes up, but to see the light, the consciousness that allows for all of that to play out. There's nothing you need to add to yourself when you know and you can feel that everything you need and what you are is already here, is already enough, is it. And that can just be allowed and felt. And any resistance that comes up or any thought stream, that's okay. Because you are, I am the consciousness, the field that allows for all of that to happen. And that's embraced. That's embraced. You're the light that allows that to happen. Just the sense of being enough. Because there's a thing inherently in us all that feels like it's not the avatar, the separate self. Feels like there's something out there, there's something outside of me that can actually complete me, complete this already whole, boundless consciousness. when that place is already there that just allows for everything to be. And it's not rejecting any of the form or our uniqueness or our difficulties, any stories. It's saying that it's what allows for all of that to come through. So it's being able to be in both, knowing that I am, you are just this, just always this, breathing, feeling. But I'm also a unique avatar, a unique self, and that's beautiful as well. And see how the mind it will do something where it will want to fill the space, fill the gaps. But if you just breathe and allow, you can feel it. You can feel there's an energy. There's an energy behind everything, every thought that appears, every feeling. Daniel, your dog must know it because he looks like he's loving
Yeah,
it.
she's just eaten and been for a walk. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
true. Yeah, she's got it.
Well, that's dogs are in that presence, in that state of just being, right? They don't have a story about themselves or um, try to force anything. Or that's why we love them as humans because they're just there. And when we connect with them and we see them, where they're giving us that invitation, that door to just be, and that's pure love. Yeah, it's beautiful. It's coming down to also being real with what's happening in your experience. So the more that place is felt and known, the more you will see and be aware of these resistances and our as our unique selves, our patterns and what we cling to. And it's not none of that is so-called bad. That's part of this process is allowing and exploring that and embracing that, right? Because to really feel when you just feel this and know that you are this, you are consciousness, then that is being okay with really everything that unfolds in your experience and in the world. It's not rejecting it. We're not here to bypass anything. It's actually in finding that place in yourself, that stillness, that calmness, that peace, you can then embrace everything in form. You don't have to you don't have to get rid of your family or go live on a mountain or start wearing white robes and walking around. You can still um, respect who you are and the uniqueness of that and everyone in your life and what you enjoy.
You can. Okay. Um, yeah, I definitely have the same sort of that resonates. The idea of like, there's these. It seems like it crops up every now and then. Like there's this, it comes back. Sort of like the character in some ways, and sort of, especially within this awakening process. There's we know that we're all the same being. We're all coming from the same source. Um, but yet, even when we, and that it's you could choose to like disidentify and sort of like live in a mountain or whatever, live in a cave. but and that's fine. But I think what's more interesting is that integration piece and like being that sort of like beacon, that light, um, within this world that we chose to come to. But I do find that there are moments where I want to retreat. Like for example, for the last 2 days, I haven't, I told friends, I'm like, I don't feel, it's a me day. I'm taking a me day, Um, so I do feel those moments of like vacillation where I'm like, oh, I just need to sort of be by myself. Um,
Mm.
and but then there are also moments where I'm just asking myself, hey, how can I be more loving today? And have I reached out to somebody? Have I talked to someone? Have I, text message a friend? So there's those moments too where um, there's that pull or that desire to want to just love, that you want that love to sort of pour out. So
Mm.
yeah, I would certainly say that both do resonate for sure.
Yeah. And you're, um, yeah, that's so real and felt, especially here, completely. It's like understanding yourself, right, and trusting that space that wants to come through, um, but also respecting your boundaries, right? So your it's respecting your energy, and that's a big part of this is knowing when to say no to what doesn't serve you, and to be able to let go of that. Say if it's someone from your past and um, there's a certain energy, or it tends to drain you of energy. It's having the self love and respect to um, say a respectful no or no thank you when you need to, right? And it's not, we don't have to it's not saying that we don't um love that person or love those people in our life, right? But um we don't have to like everyone. I think that's the difference, is we can love everyone, and loving everyone is just recognizing ourself in them, and that's when we really love ourselves and we see ourselves in everyone and everything. That's love. But we don't have to inform, and in our uniqueness we're not going to like everyone, and it doesn't align to be and see everyone all the time. So it's finding what works and what feels truest to you. Like if you feel like you need to um, place boundaries, then that's great. But if you don't feel like you have to do that, and your energy is okay in doing everything and seeing everyone, then that's fine as well. It's really coming into um, that intuition, and um, it's like learning to play with that. Like it's a dance, right? It doesn't work all the time, but over time, you'll start to know yourself more and be like, oh, this is how I feel in this situation, or I tend to like that takes energy away, and it's just having like a healthy relationship with that. Yeah. And yeah, we won't have to, like, the consciousness now that um that's unfolding, and this is happening. We can feel it. I'm sure you have. It's happening a lot more, especially with, that's the magic thing about the internet and everything online, is it's just spreading more and more. We won't have to go by a text or anything in the future, because it will just be known and felt. We might not even have to speak about it. We don't have to anyway. We can just feel we can feel the space that everyone is part of, without having to add any input. And that's a real thing. Like we'll all be able to communicate, probably without actually saying anything, because that field, that deep boundless space in meditation, where all of those thoughts are actually happening, that's always there, and we are that field.
it's funny you bring that up because I have a couple like, personal examples of what you're talking about, Noe, and Edward as well. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Yeah, with the internet and everything, it's almost. Um, I have these interesting conversations that I never thought I would have. For example, yesterday, um, I had lunch with a former boss of mine, and she's, you know, on the path of awakening. And it's something that never came up, obviously, in our relationship at work. But here we are talking about, and we're talking about esoteric things, like the Anunnaki and ETs, but we're also talking about just presence in general. And she's asking. There are a lot of questions that start to come up then too. Is like, well, how do you participate in this reality in a way that it's that whole service to others piece. So we're having these really interesting and wonderful conversations, even with my friend groups, as well, just talking about this and about consciousness and how science and neuroscience, and there's just a lot of different these things that we think are basically their own belief systems are all pointing to the same thing. You have science pointing to it. The whole like VR, this being sort of a hyper real hologram. I mean, all of these things are starting to point to it. So I guess in a roundabout way, what I'm trying to say is, yeah, it's true. It's happening, and it's fascinating too. Just thinking about the idea of like precognition or telepathy, and as our bodies become lighter, being able to tap into that. So all those sorts of things are just like it's just fuel. It's just very fascinating. So those are the things that I've been diving into just recently. But I just wanted to kind of throw that out there as some space-time experience that I've had with other avatars that are awakening. So it's been
Yeah.
really interesting and
Oh,
beautiful
that's
too.
amazing. Yeah. It is amazing as well because we're living in an incredible time because you're right, science is merging with spirituality in some way where physics, quantum physics has proven that, this is all everything is interwoven and we're part of that endless web and, you know, multi-dimensional space. And so that, as well as all this VR and virtual reality stuff, and that's all well and good. That can be to explore that and realize that and like work that out. That can be really helpful. But the key, most important thing is allowing yourself to explore your beingness and nowness, right? And that present space, because that's where all of that exists, right? Is in that now is that endless expansion and consciousness. And there's really no limits to this at all. Like it's okay. Like we need thought, right? We need thought to be like, oh, like what am I going to get for dinner later? What time is my flight? Um, but it's like knowing and then feeling that this just what is here right now is so real, is so much realer than what the mind and these stories is coming through with. And the mind and the stories, it's not saying that's like, oh, that shouldn't be happening or like there's anything wrong with that, but it's never truly grounded in reality because as we all know, it 95% of it is it just doesn't make sense. A lot of it is dysfunctional. So the more that just that present moment is felt, then that starts to come down. That murmur and narrative starts to come down, and then true intelligence, r- real intelligence, which is consciousness, is then able to be there. And then you don't have to stop thinking. Then you can see when the thoughts are there, and you can play with that in some way. And then you know you're not it, and that becomes more and more evident. So it then little things that happen, say something happens in the day, or you get a call from someone, or um, you know, you step in dog shit or whatever, it doesn't bother you as much because you know you're just part of, you know, you're already free, you're already here, and it's just now, and it becomes fun. And then as soon as, if you do feel resistance, or say you're in traffic, or anger towards someone, it's just you notice quicker, right? Like, oh, I'm just reflecting onto myself, like I'm just reflecting onto consciousness. Sure, it's like it's respecting, like, yeah, there is a unique avatar in that car and there's a play of form happening, but I ultimately create how I really feel and what the experience is here. But by taking that responsibility, that's also respecting other people as well, other yourselves, because then it's like, by taking responsibility of how I think and feel, I'm then affecting others in my life, and that's going to play a part in that for them. Yeah.
And if I may, again, I think when people are out looking, as long as you're looking, you're going to be doing something other than finding what you're looking for, because you're going to be looking, is that it's not something to achieve. Enlightenment isn't something you find, it's something you are, and you simply maintain the consciousness of it. There's the change of consciousness. You maintain the consciousness of yourself. Did that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And that's right. It's not something that can be achieved, because even when we think of enlightenment or awakening, we imagine and um, we create a future scenario, right? Like, oh, in, you know, 20 more YouTube videos and then I'll be there, or in 2 years and I've done 4 meditation retreats, I'll be there. But you don't have to, you're able to bypass all of that, because that will hold you back. The mind will create a story of that it's somewhere in the future to get to, when all it can be is just felt now. And that is behind all the words. Even now, the words don't really do it justice, right? It's a energy and vibration that's just felt.
Once
And
you
it's
name
just,
something, that implied definition and that implied judgment, and this involves time, and now you're completely drug out of reality, and there you go.
yeah, exactly. And then that's exactly, once you name something or you judge it, you're immediately removing yourself from that deeper reality into
It's God, and who are
what's
you to
being
judge
created.
God?
Yeah, but you don't have to then say, oh, well, I'm just going to sit in my room all day and not do anything. I don't have to create anything. It's no, we can be conscious creators. We can be co-creators. It's having the trust and faith in that, right? That you as source is just happening, is just growing now. That's why we're here, is because we're meeting as that source and we're growing together. And then
It's a
everything
choice.
that
It's a good
happens.
choice, if I may, because you're into your ecstatic dance, and a good thing is dance is a wonderful example, because you look at it and one person, it's ecstatic, it's wondrous, it's a joyful thing. Another person sees it as a burden. It's part of, you either look at something and you create it as a dance, or you create it as a burden, but you make that choice. The judgment, you create it, and then it is what you've created. You do create what it
That's
is.
right. And that's taking responsibility, is in that place,
And that's
I
where
do
the
have a
fear comes.
choice. I do have a choice. And then we're not rejecting everything that happens on the surface, right?
No.
Is embraced. All of the feelings, everything that wants to come through. all of these experiences are embraced, that is okay as well. That it's okay. It's okay if you feel like you regress, because no matter what, consciousness is growing in you, and that's felt the more and more you can just allow, right? Allow yourself to come in to now and just be. And then that energy, the energy that we're sharing now, that's felt, that consciousness, it doesn't matter if I'm here or not, right? It doesn't matter. And what appears in the images, in the senses, the feelings, that energy and that consciousness is allowing for all of that to be and take place.
Yeah.
And so then you can just breathe. And then that follows everywhere. That energy that's felt now it can be just felt everywhere and always. And you can trust that. And to the mind, that originally can be quite scary to move into or to let go of, because it likes feeding off that tension, and that it almost likes feeding off of that resistance, and it doesn't want to let go of that. And so, like any sort of alchemy, there's some pain, and um, there's some pain and suffering in letting go of that. But that's the only way that you can be you and know that I am, is by just allowing that to take place. And then the suffering is okay. The suffering is seen as grace then, because it's through that suffering that, oh, I've forgotten who I am. I've forgotten who I really am. And then this is here, this suffering, this resistance, to show me, to bring me home to what's actually here.
When you're in the midst of it, and you said, it can be fun. And I realize now that they're gone, it's fun to sort of play with what was going on. But when you're in the midst of it, and you're still struggling with understanding your consciousness, but yet you're still pissed. I was just sort of like, okay, I'm really pissed right now. I am just totally pissed. I got to accept the fact that I'm pissed. Can I change this in the moment? Should these dogs not be pooping? Well, they are pooping. So this is what I deal with. And so I don't think it's a necessary thing to sort of say, I could have been different in that moment. Of course, I could have been, but I wasn't. So what do I take from this? That's the fun part. We decide, well, what can I figure out from this? But I was just, I guess, bringing the story to light in the sense that I was really in a conundrum about what was happening and about how I was reacting to it.
Yeah. And that's right, because we feel like there's the guilt that happens, right? Like this thing of the mind and the stories that the avatar tells itself, like, oh, I'm supposed to be spiritual. I should be better than this. I should know this. And that's a big thing as well, because the avatar attaches itself as well to being spiritual, right? Or, oh, I've learnt all this stuff, so then I should know when I feel resistance or when I feel angry, that that shouldn't be happening. That's what it tells itself, like that shouldn't happen. But that's very normal, and the real alchemy and challenge in that is when that's embraced, is when that resistance, that anger, and those feelings are embraced. Not, oh, this shouldn't be happening. It's just, oh, okay, noticing. Oh, there's anger. Okay, there's anger. Okay, there's resistance. Mm.
You can have both at the same time, I think. And that's what was interesting to me, because I'm very well of the fact that whatever's happening should be happening because it is happening and you can't do anything about it. So there's the notion that I get that piece, but in the same moment, I'm still pissed. And so both things are happening at the same time. And
Yeah,
that's got to be okay.
and that's fine, exactly, because
Yeah,
the one and consciousness allows form to express in however it likes, right? So
right.
it's finding that peace, that peace that's always there amongst all the changing feelings, forms, and not not saying, oh, like I I'm unspiritual or there's something wrong with me for feeling this. But
Right.
back to what we were saying before, it's also okay where if you do have the choice, but in this case, it sounds like you didn't. If you do have the choice, say with someone or a situation where you know that it will affect your energy and that it doesn't serve you, it is okay, and you do have the choice to say no, right?
Say for me, like with anger specifically, like I've studied like in the past, like family systems, and like I kind of come from a family where like anger for me is like a no-no, and don't kind of hide, sweep everything under the rug. So that's kind of been my experience with anger for a while. And to piggyback on the subject before, like I felt like as I got older, I needed to like hermit from like the world and like my family and people that I've been around that kind of like all supported this role that I was playing. But yeah,
Yeah,
anytime like anger really gets through, it's like very welcomed.
yeah, and that's it's tricky, right, with family and all the roles we play, because and especially you were saying this was when you were younger, you're trying to you're building a sense of self, you're building an avatar, and that that retreating and wanting to hide away is just you wanting to be yourself fully, right? Like it's wanting to be yourself, but the separate self, the self with a lowercase s, is the one that's playing this game and these roles. And but that's not what wants to come through. Like the boundless consciousness, the love that you're capable of, is wanting to be expressed, but that takes opening up, right, and allowing. And I'm not sure at that age if you were into any of this, but yeah, when you are fully identified with the me, the little me, and the story, it's
Yeah.
really painful. It's very yeah, it's difficult. Yeah.
I
Look, just observing. It was interesting. You talked about, observing other avatars on a daily basis. I think I've become a better driver. I don't flip a bird at other drivers these days. I just think of myself being in a hurry in the other car. And sometimes you wonder why another avatar has treated you in a particular way, but I don't dwell on that a lot these days, and I just move on. But yeah, it's a interesting observation in my day-to-day life since the last we spoke.
Amazing. Yeah, it sounds like you've definitely there's been some deepening. And yeah, it's just allowing and feeling the boundless space underneath all of the separate selves and what plays out, right? It's knowing that, oh, I'm not rejecting any of that or the uniqueness, but I don't have to take as seriously what's happening, right? It's not
Correct,
as serious as it's being made out. Yeah.
correct. But then the other part of it is, should I care? Should I just be, callous and not really care? But sometimes I just also think it doesn't necessarily improve the quality of my life, so I'm happy to move on.
Hmm. And truly moving on is actually just allowing, right? Is when you really just
Correct.
be here, be yourself, and be in that space of awareness that I am. That's truly moving on, because then that's allowing life, that's allowing you as life to transform and express itself. Hmm.
Thanks.
Something I'm learning like is that I'm worthy of friends who will accept my decision like not to be somewhere. I'm worthy of people like I'm worthy of friends who will accept my no as appropriate. And I've found lately I've set some boundaries, sort of in a playful way and in a loving way, just as a determination that I'm worthy of what standard I choose. So yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, that's
It
good.
is. Yeah, that's amazing, Daniel. It's like what we were saying earlier, like actually that knowing yourself and loving yourself, right, is being able to say yes to setting boundaries and saying no to what doesn't feel right to me. And in really knowing and trusting in yourself, right, is then opening up. You'll notice life will start giving you friendships and relationships that really do cultivate that, and it does happen. You will just meet someone where and that's amazing when you're both in that place of that self-respect and love. And it's not a give take, a mind relationship anymore of like, oh, here's you need to give me something so I'm happy, and then I need to give you something, and that very almost toxic way of being. And I don't know if toxic is the right word. It's really just, well, yeah, it's an unconscious relationship of not having that self-love and knowing who you are, seeing that in others and respecting that. And then it's okay. It's okay if you still do have those relationships. Um, because like we said, you can see behind the uniqueness or behind the unconsciousness, you can see yourself in them and you can see the beingness, who they really are. But then you do have a choice. You do have a choice of, am I okay with keeping up with these friendships that or friendship relationship that I'm not sure about. Like intuitively, I do have a choice, and no matter what I choose, whether to embrace that or where they're at on their path, that's okay. Or I can choose to see the love in me that is in them, the being in them, and that they're on their journey, and I can choose to move away from that as well. And that's the freedom, is knowing that you do have a choice. But if we just identify with the mind, with the tension, with the stories, it can feel quite difficult, right? It can feel like we don't have a choice because we fear letting go of that because it's a false sense of safety. Like we want to feel safe, like, oh, this person, I have this person in my life, or I have this person I can go to. But is it really a sense of safety? Is that really safe if you feel like there's tension and you have to mentally work it out? Is that real safety, or is the safety in knowing your being, fully having respect for yourself, and then knowing there's others that are coming and will come into your alignment that are in that same space? Mm.
Yeah, and this definitely resonates too. This idea of, well, relationships being are helpful they're a catalyst, number one. Like you're saying, Noe, for like spiritual growth, expanding consciousness. But then it's also, I mean, it's also a mirror. It's basically the relationship is just capital self, capital self. Which is really interesting when you think about it. You're just basically learning how to love yourself, even though it's another person. Because I credit my last partner as being sort of my greatest teacher. And it was a relationship fraught with anger. It was a relationship fraught with trauma, and it was a mirror looking back at me. It was a mirror looking back at me and my unresolved trauma, Charles would talk about like anger not being a thing, like that. I can relate to that too. It's sort of like be the nice boy, do the right thing, get the good grades, say all the right things, and make everyone happy. So there's people pleasing thing that comes into to play too. So here I am, you know, in relationships where I'm not being my authentic self, wondering what's going on. Why is this happening to me? And so like this, the last relationship I credit for even, I don't know, I credit self, I credit source. I mean, it's all meant to happen anyway, but even just like, you know, waking up to like what's going on here. And then looking at all these different relationships is just, I mean, it's diversity, it's the celebration of, you know, the infinite creator, and that's the beauty of it. But then it's also a mirror looking back at you too. So if there's something about the relationship that I'm like, okay, there's something, you know, it's like this person's pissing me off, you know, okay, well, what is it about this relationship that I see in it that maybe I don't like about myself? But they've been useful too, just to help grow and help grow consciously too, like how to be present and then just know that everyone's on, you know, even though there's no path or whatever you want to call it, you know, there's all, you know, you can be philosophical about it, but what's beautiful about it is that we all vibrate our own unique frequency. So all of our, you know, individual quote unquote stories, even though they're not real, they look different, and we can provide that to each other and provide that uniqueness and that love and that experience and that creativity and everything that comes to it. You can reinvest that then in this relationship with capital self, you know. So it's just an ongoing thing too, you know. It's never, you know, it's just like this beautiful sort of unfolding where each relationship is just a sort of a miracle, if you will, just of uniqueness. And yeah, so this all is yeah, very, very resonant right now.
Yeah, I actually, yeah, I really feel what you were just saying. That completely resonates here. That, you know, every relationship that comes through now, every friendship is a miracle in some way, and it's all through love. And the more you grow in consciousness and know yourself, right, the intelligence that creates everything will bring you people, will bring you someone that's meant to be for you at that time. And that they it feels like it will bring you people that are in more of alignment with you and are in more of a frequency, a shared frequency with you, right? And you can, that can happen where someone comes into your life and you're like, wow, how did this even happen? This is amazing. And we look back on those relationships or past friendships, and it's not like we're saying that, oh, those were bad, or they weren't supposed to happen or be there. It's that they came from that same intelligence, they came from that same creator, and that they were there for you at that time for you to grow and learn, just like they were for that other um, unique self. That, so then it's seen as, oh, like that can happen with relationships, right? It's like after, if we which I'm sure we all have had a difficult relationship, we think like, oh, well, why was that supposed to happen, or why was that supposed to go that way? And then eventually we realize, and it's shown to us, and these pieces come together like, oh, that was all there for me out of love. That was all there for me out of love, to see what I needed to realize in myself and what I wasn't looking at and what needed to be worked through. And all of this it's all here through that intelligence,